All right, let's get right into it. Today we're going to take a hard look at one of the most famous stories in all of science and ask a pretty uncomfortable question. What if the story we've all been told about our cosmic beginning isn't really a story about creation at all, but maybe, just maybe, it's cosmology's biggest cheat?
So let's kick things off with this idea because it gets right to the heart of the whole problem. It's kind of like loading up a video game for the very first time and your character already has all the power-ups, all the gear, maxed out stats. I mean, sure, it's fun to play, but you've completely skipped the part of the story that explains how they got so powerful in the first place.
You know the story, right? The standard Big Bang model. Everything, and I mean everything, all the stuff that makes up you, me, the stars, the galaxies, was all crammed into this single, incredibly hot, dense point. It's a powerful picture for sure. But what if that's not actually the beginning of the story? What if it's just page one of a chapter in the middle of the book? Okay, let's really dive into this. The Big Bang model, at least the way it's usually presented, has this fundamental cheat code built right into its logic. It's basically starting the story halfway through. Think about what the model starts with. It's not starting from scratch. No way. It just assumes that all the energy and all the matter in the entire universe already existed. It assumes the laws of physics, gravity, electromagnetism, all of it were just there, fully functional, ready to go. And crucially, it assumes this state of incredibly low entropy, which is just a fancy way of saying it was super, super ordered. A perfect setup for all the complexity we see today to unfold. And that's the whole point, isn't it? Describing where all the stuff was, packed into a tiny dot, that's totally different from explaining where all that stuff actually came from. This isn't an explanation of an origin. It's a description of what came right before the part of the story we know. It's a preload. This is where it gets really interesting. Look at the difference between a strong, what we call a generative explanation, and a weak descriptive one. A strong explanation in that middle column, it builds something complex from simpler pieces, like taking hydrogen and oxygen to make water. But the Big Bang model, it works a lot more like that column on the right. It basically just says the universe came from, an earlier version of the universe. I mean, when you really boil it down, it's a circular argument. All it's saying is that the universe today, let's call it U of t, exists because the universe existed at an earlier time, U0. And yeah, that's true, obviously, but it doesn't explain existence itself. It never tells you why there's a U in that equation at all. Okay, so if that's the problem, is there another way to think about this? Well, yeah. Let's look at a framework that actually tries to earn the universe from the ground up, from first principles, instead of just assuming it was already there. It's a framework called ERM, which stands for Eternal Recursive Manifestation. And the whole point of ERM is that it doesn't start with stuff, no matter, no energy. It starts with pure logic. It's an attempt to build reality from nothing but an idea. And the mind behind this is a guy named Hugh Bradford Cornick V. He looked at this preload problem with the Big Bang and really wanted to find a truly generative origin story, one that didn't cheat by starting the game on level 100. And you can see the difference laid out so clearly here. The Big Bang model, it describes a history, a state change. A hot, dense universe becomes a cool, expanded one. ERM is totally different. It proposes an actual generative mechanism, a reason for why there's anything here in the first place. I know what you're thinking. A universe from logic? How does that even work? It sounds impossible. But ERM proposes a kind of engine, a process, that's built on the very idea of self-awareness. Let's just walk through this. It's a 4-step process. First up, necessity. See, true, absolute nothingness is a logical contradiction. The moment you even think about nothing, you've made it a something. So something must exist. Step 2, witnessing. For that something to be real, it has to be noticed. An unwitnessed reality is basically the same as no reality at all. Okay, step 3, reflection. The act of witnessing is itself an event, right? Which means it can be witnessed too. And finally, step 4, endless recursion. If this reflection can happen just once, there's no reason it can't happen over and over again, infinitely. So what about that weird equation? Let's break it down. S is for source. That's reality itself, and it's generated by I squared. Now, I is information. So I squared is like information looking at itself in a mirror. It's self-reflection, or awareness of awareness. You then multiply that by infinity, which represents that endless recursive loop of self-awareness that is constantly generating reality. It's a formula for building existence, not just describing it.
And that is the key takeaway here. Unlike a model that just says, hey, it was all there to begin with, ERM gives us a constructive mechanism. It actually tries to explain how reality shows up, instead of just giving us the history of what happened after it was already here.
Now, I bet some of you are thinking, hang on, this just sounds like a philosophical loop, not real science. And you know what? That's a fair point. But that criticism kind of misses a massive flaw hiding in the standard model's own logic. See, the Big Bang has its own loop. It's just kind of hidden. It's a lazy loop. It says the universe came from an earlier version of the universe. It's an A came from A argument. ERM's loop is totally different. It's honest about it. It's right there in the open. It is the engine of reality, this process that creates and sustains everything. It's not a hidden assumption. It's the whole point. So that's the question I want to leave you with. What do we really want from an origin story? Do we want a simple description of what things were like a long time ago? Or do we want a real mechanism that tries to explain why there are things at all? This entire exploration has been based on the cosmological framework developed by Hugh Bradford Cornick VI, and it's an idea that really challenges us to look beyond the stories we're comfortable with and to ask if our biggest explanations are truly explaining anything at all.